Oh God, so I'm back with Amanda. Oh. And Amanda and I are now also communicating through our videos. And last night I gave her an update, inviting her to watch, those final videos, on day 13, which was, riding to, with fear and nerves to the doctor's office, and then this amazing moment of being in there with Dr. Henny Malone. That was just such a sweet moment. He's such a caring physician, and just had to see how he was struggling to, he didn't want to, I could feel he didn't want to give that news to me in every fiber of his being. He did not want to give me that news. And so
and you were comforting him.
I was comforting him. I watched the video and I noticed that. And so, and then, when we left, as I shared, that was just as much as I, try to prepare myself, it's still a gut punch, as I was saying. And then, I invited you to watch the subsequent videos, just, first of all, Dylan, that video with Dylan last, I'm still kind of like, I woke Sue up at 3 o'clock in the morning. When she saw that video, she got an understanding of the significance of what we're doing. She really understood the significance of what we're doing. Because first of all, Dylan would never have spoken to us like that directly. He wouldn't have, he gave us, and the way he process that he was going through, he was pacing the kitchen, pacing the kitchen. And, he was restless. He didn't know what to do with his energy. And then he finally grabbed his phone, and he said, I'm going upstairs to shoot a video.
Wow.
And so that was his therapy. He actually filmed a video to help him make sense of the moment. And what came out, by the grace of God, I mean, so much is this by the grace of God, it streamed out because, first of all, I was pained and shocked to hear him think that he wanted to actually commit suicide. He was entertaining those thoughts. And to be able to see him shift the metaphor, to create a metaphor in which he would stay alive because he wanted to see the end of the movie.
Yes.
And then he wanted to see if the movie got better, and then I just sat with chills when I because I thought, how many other teens? I mean, he's founded this teen chapter of conscious capitalism. I said to Sue, he was, in the morning, he had an amazing moment where he stepped into the role as the founding chair of the teen chapter of conscious capitalism. But that evening, he claimed the title because he showed up as a conscious leader. He showed up as a conscious leader. He actually, just in that space of 12 hours, he claimed that title. Authentic, because I think of how many leaders I know, and I think I'm in awe of how he is showing up, because he's not only, he is raw and real. He is raw and real. And he's so authentic, and he speaks in such a voice, but then he's also looking in the camera and he's saying, I see you. He's also talking, he's processing himself, but at some point he pulls out, and he has the wherewithal to know he's not just doing it for him, but he's speaking to somebody out there. He's speaking to somebody out there. And I'm imagining a child or a teen who's been in pain, and he's having the same suicidal thoughts, and they see that video.
Mm-hmm.
And for a moment they say, maybe I shouldn't pull the trigger, or maybe I shouldn't do the OD, because this movie might end differently.
Right. And
So,
Danny, my boys are 15 and 17.
yeah.
So they're right around this age. And what a gift for him to have the presence to want to go up and record himself going through this. That was such a moment of awakened heart leadership.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
And I'm not even sure, I think a lot of this miracle is wrapping together, because I think part of the reason why he needed to do that, he needed to talk things through.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I think when people hear our family, hi, my love, thank you so much. Sue just brought me.
Oh,
check this out.
Oh, yes.
This is my morning coffee, and this is look how perfect this is. This is all these synchronicities.
Oh.
This is our blessed trip that we took to Costa Rica.
Oh, okay.
And we made this. Costa Rica is the land of Pura Vida.
Oh.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Oh, I love that.
And that actually is just also brings my friends, Michael and Elizabeth Hart, are really dear friends, and they host us in their, in their home down there. It's so this has such. Oh God, that's so good. Sue makes her coffee with love. A special blend of Pete's. I hope that's not a product placement.
Oh.
But, talking about the richness of this, because in many ways, there's a layer of this where we need to talk it out. Mm-hmm. He needs to talk it out for himself, and he needs to figure out. So he's talking it out for himself. And there are times on these videos, and even that video that I did afterwards, when really we're in that video after Dylan's, mm-hmm. where I go to the room.
You and your two boys?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually doing an active learning cycle. we're making meaning of our experience early that night, and we're actually processing. We're talking it through, and the irony is we're talking it through using the framework of an active learning cycle. Mm-hmm. That is showcasing what an active learning cycle is, that enables others to learn as well.
Yes.
So there's this part of how we're learning, and we're talking it through, and we need to do that for our own therapy. So I hope that's okay with folks. I hope that's okay with you listening, where part of this we're doing to make sense of that journey for ourselves, but we're doing this, the gift of being able to do this as a family project, our family project in service of your family, your families, and whether those families are at home or at work, whatever family means to you, wherever you find it, that gives even greater meaning to our conversations we're having. And in many times we'd be having these conversations with, you may well feel that these conversations are raw and real, and we'd be having these conversations as they're unfiltered. We're having these conversations as they happen. These are all, pretty much one take conversations. I don't think maybe one video we've edited. Other than that, they've all been one takes. We videotape, click record, and it's in the channel 5 minutes later, without any kind of, it's just in the stream of the flow. And so sensing into the purpose of being able to, I'm just thinking with Dylan, that experience that's a great example. One level of that was for him, but he actually was able to pierce the veil and to actually know that, there's somebody out there, and that gives his voice depth and purpose.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is, because he's now claimed that, and and I know even when I raised the teen chapter last night, he was just overwhelmed. He was like, he was thinking like, Dad, what if I almost sense, he didn't say this exactly, but it was almost like what I sensed. What if I go into a depression and I can't do that work? What if I just fall apart, in this, and then when we actually spoke afterwards, I think he understands even more the significance of, I'll tell you a funny story. He's always had an aspiration to be a YouTuber, and the YouTuber I think he's followed, which is Logan Paul.
Oh yeah. Yes.
How many subs does Logan Paul have? I think he's got something like 16 million. So I said, that video you did, Logan Paul has nothing on you. That video you did,
so true.
Logan Paul has nothing, because what his video, and I understand that these videos in some way have dramatic entertainment value, in their own accord, in this idea that I've had people say they're binging on this, like it's a Netflix series, and I understand that, there's one dimension, we're an unfolding human drama, but we're an unfolding human drama in service of life enrichment.
Mm-hmm.
We're, in service of life enrichment and societal transformation. So it's that scale, so this is my plug to ask you to subscribe, to join us in our mission to knock Logan Paul off his, to help Dylan realize his dream to become a YouTuber. So subscribe and share these videos for others to subscribe as well, and then you'll get this in the feed. So subscribe below this video. How perfect is it? So there's another dimension of this. After I got, after the video that I did with the boys, I went back and Sue was sleeping, and I woke her up, and it was a very tender conversation. It was a very tender conversation. Because Sue's going through her own journey on this, and it's not necessarily my journey.
Mm-hmm.
She's processing, and for me, I find immense, just immense purpose in the channel. I mean, what rallied me last night was I was feeling very depleted, but it was when I reconnected with my sense of purpose. It was when I reconnected with my, that I rallied. I actually got up and I went to the room, and we didn't even have any preamble. I said, boys, let's just shoot a video. And we just went. All of that was in the flow of emergence. I mean, there was no prep for that at all. That was just a straight take as well. But she's like, I think she's, and I have such a flow of purpose for me flowing through me, and it was for us to come to alignment of just how deep, what this whole thing, I actually had to come up with a name, because we've been calling it a project, a family project. And I said, that doesn't sound right. That just doesn't sound right. It's like project's transactional. That doesn't sound right. So what we're working with as a, as a working time, I mean, I'm trying to find words for what this is. I don't know what this is. And so it feels like it's a sacred emergent process,
Yeah. Couple things come to mind. I mean, one thing that came to mind instantly as I was watching you and your boys and you with your doctor is that what you may be recording is a new miraculous way to treat brain cancer. Do you know what I mean? Like it could be that big, like you're chronicling all of the aspects it takes,
I
you
think,
know?
I think that's one dimension of Amanda. I really think it's one dimension.
Yeah.
Because there certainly is the healthcare dimension, but then there's also this idea that I don't want that to be the front story. That's a side story.
Yes. Yes.
But I think what we may be creating is a new media, talking about it's a new media for communication of life transformation events.
Yes.
When we're talking about this concept of a Netflix series, it's an unfolding human drama. It's more than a blog. It's more than kind of like a live family blog. It just
Yes.
feels different, right?
Yes.
It's a way of capturing. What I want to do is I want to actually kind of like think of this as a new genre.
Yeah.
A new genre of ways of communicating in real time, real world, transformational stories that are healing to the world.
Yes.
That's something we've got to figure out what we call that.
Genre is a perfect word because I work with people to write books to try to get at this kind of experience.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And we have words. We have a linear process. It takes a long time to come up with words that can even begin to catalyze the kind of interaction you're capturing instantly on video. So the immediacy of the small, short videos with the active learning cycle, it feels so much more effective in creating that kind of activation and transformation in the moment as it's happening in real time, and you don't have to wait.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So there's another, as we're figuring this out, I mean, this is all in the flow of emergence. And, I'm welcoming, what I'm realizing as we're talking about, because I'm also very mindful that you're listening out there as well, and that we're crowdsourcing. So below, if you have comments or thoughts about what this is, please put this in the comments below. Please put this in the comments below, because, this is a co-creation between all of us, between the global community that is assembling, that will assemble, around this. And because we've made the commitment to actually knock Logan Paul off that, we will assemble a meaningful community of influence. Together we can change the world. Together we can change the world. So I want to also just invite the crowdsourcing of, what you feel is emerging, in this experience. I think we're all learning here together as we're all kind of developing. But I'll tell you where I think this is larger, because this is what happened with me and Susie. I developed clarity. I actually was really struggling still, because it takes a certain energetic. Takes a certain energetic to do these videos. But there's something going on, and I'm realizing the place where I came. First of all, there was when I proposed to Sue. When I proposed to Sue, it literally was, I spoke in one of the earlier videos about literally, I put my foot in the road. We were going to have coffee, and I had a download. I had a download that bewildered me. I had no idea that I was going to propose to her. I had no idea until I put my foot in the road. It was a download, and it was the most clumsy proposal ever, because I was bewildered when I proposed. I said, literally, I was like, Sue, I have no idea what's come over me. I don't know what's come over me. I think I'm going to propose. I didn't say that. I said, I don't know what's come over me, but I think I want to be married. And I was bewildered. And she said, well, to anybody in particular? Just in general, is that a general concept? And, and that was the proposal. But it was a download. But I can plot from that point. About how this moment was ordained. Literally, this moment was ordained. I think what was happening and I wasn't spiritually connected when that happened. I wasn't spiritually connected at the time. I think the field had something in mind for me before I even knew I was connected to the field. Because I've had a number of spiritual connectings
Yes.
that has deepened me into kind of like my spirit. I was very agnostic, like I was actually very self-reliant. I thought I was alpha omega. That was my challenge. And I had a series of awakenings that I had, and I want to bring that to kind of where I am now. I mean, how far I've moved from that. But I think that moment, it was ordained. And when I was able to see with kind of in awe how she's the perfect partner for me, I just did not know, because fundamentally, you know, of all the girlfriends I'd had up to the time, I felt safest with Sue. There was something about the psychological safety that I felt with Sue and the connection. And certainly she was very sexy as well. That helped. So Sue, if you get a video, that's a plug for you. So I felt psychologically safe with her. So she's provided this container for me to do my work. She's provided this container for us to do this work together, right? She provided the foundational support for that to happen.
Yes.
And she's incredibly supportive of our relationship, our working relationship. But that's just like one small part of that. And I don't even think she understands, how profound a role she plays. When I asked her, what is her life purpose? Because Sue, struggled for a while to figure out what is her life purpose. She really there was a question that gave her angst. And there was a time that she said, Danny, I think I've discovered my life purpose. And by the way, she was just when I met her, she was a hard charging lawyer. She was on her own career track. She just, and I realized that I could never afford to get a divorce from Sue because she would take me to the cleaners. Like I knew it would be expensive. So, yeah. So, you can imagine she's a professional woman, like a professional. Actually, when that transition to becoming a mother was also a challenging transition for her because the biology of love that awakened in her for Zach, for Zach first, and then Dylan, that biological awakening and of motherhood, which I feel probably many professional women can relate to.
Yes, I certainly do. Many do, I think. Yes.
Yeah, I think Sue can probably. Hopefully Sue might be able to talk to that in a future video. But she went through a painful transition. I could see it would tore her apart inside. Like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? And then she came to a point of ease. She began to rest. She began to rest. She says, Danny, I've come to an understanding my purpose of my life. And it's simply to create a rich life for my boys. It's just to create a rich life for my boys. It's a simple purpose. And then I said, could I be included?
Could I be one of your boys, please?
Am I included in one of those? She said, yeah, I can include you.
Oh, I love that.
So that's her purpose. And then, I realized just how much she's manifested that purpose because she's allowed me to, I said, your purpose goes far. I mean, you've already done that. Let me just say, you have created extraordinary rich life. We have such a rich life. And that, by the way, is also a source of the pain because we have such a rich life. And that comes with a double-edged sword because the thought of me not being at the dinner table rips up, creates such pain. That's the pain part of this. We have such a loving, connected family that I've got to start moving, that my physical presence into a spiritual place for them so that when I make my physical transition, it's not as painful, it's going to be painful, but we've got to work that one through, but we have so we're living. I said, you've done good on that alone. You've done good on that alone. She's the best cook in the world. I mean, we go to restaurants and like the way she's a host. I mean, people come over. It's amazing just how she creates this rich, has created this rich life for us.
Mm.
And, but then I said, you know, your purpose extends further beyond that. Your purpose goes out, ripples out into the world, because you've provided me the foundation to do my life's purpose work in the world. And that's extended beyond our family walls. And now what I realized is now we're doing this as a family project. We're actually coming back and we're doing this as a family project that enables us to share this purpose with all of you listening. So I realized that it was ordained in the sense that Sue's the perfect partner for the journey, because she's from where we started, that first step in the road to last night, that last night conversation, the realization of realizing how it's all come down to this. How it's all come down to this. It's come down to this moment, that stepping into the road has come down to this moment and this project. I mean, this is going to be my final, most important project. This is my final, most important project of my life. This is my life's work. This is the final expression of my life's work. And that was the next part of my revelation. And there are two reasons why we cry. One is we cry because of grieving and loss. This is not that kind of cry. It's crying because of a deep connection. It's crying for, like, at the point of making a deep connection with something profound, that the reconnection is a catharsis of tears. Yeah. And that's what I'm feeling, because the reconnection is, in an earlier video, I was talking about awakening. I was celebrating an awakening, but I thought I had the full answer then, but actually I was missing an element. You know, I was alluding to that there's a certain element of awakening that happens in, you know, at the level of mind, where there's a certain wisdom that happens. So there's the mind awakening. And then what I was experiencing when I did that video, was that I was having a heart awakening. I was actually in that place of, so I was realizing the power of conscious leadership is when it's connected to an awakened heart.
Yes.
The third dimension is spirit. Mind, heart, and spirit. So what I realized was this rounding out of my awakening is the deepest part of my spiritual awakening, which is an understanding that this energy that I'm feeling, knowing that it's all come to this and it's been ordained from the first moment I stepped into the road with Sue to this moment now, where this is by fire, this is that I feel that I've been called to serve. I feel I've been called to serve by God at this moment in time. I feel like I've been called to serve, and it's been actually in the field all along. I feel like we've all been called to serve together, and it just simply happens, this cancer happens to be the catalyst for all of us. You know, it's a side story, but this happens to be a catalyst for global awakening, right?
Yes.
And what I realized is that because I'm watching the beauty. I mean, there's suffering over here, but I'm watching the beauty that's emerging through these videos. And a lot of what happened is actually, when I saw Dylan's video last night, I see God speaking through Dylan. In this moment, I feel that God is speaking through us. You and I asked, and Sue, hasn't never been very religious. And I asked her, I said, do you believe in God? She said, no. But I said, well, do you have a sense of connection with something larger than yourself? Would you have another word for that? And she said, well, I'd call it the force.
Okay, yeah.
So she's got that word. I call it the field.
Yeah.
We all have words for this, but it's
Yeah.
a reverence for some mystery, whatever this mystery is. I'm experiencing it as incredible, conscious, loving energy. It's still a mystery to me.
Mhm.
I don't know. I can't put form around it, but I perceive it as incredibly comforting. Whatever this collective intelligence that's moving through the fabric of this universe, I think I sense it as being glorious, and I sense it as being glorious. I mean, even in this conversation we're having right now, it feels like it's coming from a non-local environment.
Mm.
It feels like neither of us are speaking. I mean, I don't claim any brilliance to this or any attachment of ownership to this. It feels like it's coming through rather than from any aspect myself. And I just find myself in the joy and bliss of being able to be the vehicle for expression.
Well, just to piggyback on what you said before too, the moment you stepped into the road, it's like a seed was planted, a spiritual seed, right? And so the field, God, was growing you as your life as a conduit to receive the fullness of this, right? All along.
I have felt guided all along.
Mhm.
My journey, this is the thing, my journey, if you track into kind of like the unfolding of events, me falling apart in medical school,
Mhm.
Just falling apart in medical school and feeling like I was, all alone, and discovering self-doubt, that I had self-doubt, and then discovering that actually I needed to move from achievement to an embrace of self-doubt, and put me onto that path. How do I embrace self-doubt to more fully connect and do what matters in my life, not because I have to overcome something, but because I can embrace self-doubt and I can focus on what really matters. So that was a certain kind of a shift. I still wasn't religious in it. And then going into founding the UCSF Medical Student Network, which was my first step on that path to conscious leadership, where and we can find another way to get people the backstory. Maybe we'll put the introduction of my book, our book, below here somewhere. But there's a backstory, and then I go into this world. When I found the UCSF Medical Student Network to actually promote compassionate delivery of healthcare by leadership and resiliency, I was asked to become the first teaching fellow at UCSF, and I love teaching. And they said, what do you want to teach? I said, I want to continue this work in leadership and resiliency. And they said, no. They said, no, you need to teach something more academic than that. So at the time, that's when there was evidence-based medicine was just emerging. And I said, okay, I'll teach the faculty evidence-based medicine. It's a little bit audacious. I'll just simply teach the faculty at UCSF, one of the top institutions. And I did, it was, and then I landed up writing the first textbook on evidence-based medicine in the United States. And it has incredible value. Interestingly, it's become the standard by which all healthcare decisions are now made. So, some people would say that is a substantial contribution. And I was one of the early pioneers, in that movement. But I have to honestly say, it wasn't a passion project, and I got depressed again. Depressed again, because for me, this was the mind of medicine, and I was missing the heart of healthcare.
Yes.
Right. And I had to come back, and I said, well, I felt like I lost my way. And the next part of this journey was when I found God. This is when I really found God. I want to just speak into that moment. So I'm going into a depression. I consider my superpowers making meaning out of suffering. So my first depression in medical school put me on a path of actually wanting to embrace stress, uncertainty, and self-doubt so I can focus on what really matters. This depression opened up something else. I found a different sense of meaning.
Mm.
So I got to a point where I was so angry. I was so angry at myself. We had a very successful at the time consultancy, Super Smart Health
Mhm.
was, at the time I was doing evidence-based medicine, programs, in every state in the country. I did, a couple thousand programs, and that, set us up for, our livelihood, etc. But I got depressed and I got burnt out in it. And a dear friend, and I think this is what primed me for it. I was gifted. I've got a very, very dear friend over here who went through a very deep bottom, with alcohol. He was in the program. He went through the 12-step program, and he was in a very deep bottom. And I just watched him as a miracle come off that bottom, and actually, he found his spiritual awakening. And so he invited me into a community program. It was called the Big Book Awakening. It was a 6-month program. It was very involved. And at the time, my ism wasn't alcoholism, but my ism was certainly perfectionism and workaholism and all that. So I could connect with all those isms. It's just another form. And so I went into the program. It was open to the community, and it was you took the big book of AA, and you transcribed every line into a reflective question. It was a very,
wow.
It was a very laborious. So you actually are, now you're creating, not only are you reading the big book, but you're actually creating a powerful reflection in the book. You're converting every line to questions, and
Wow.
you'll see this has import. And so I'm in step 1. And I find myself on the floor because I'm already kind of like angry at myself for having, gone down this path of evidence-based medicine. I'm angry. I go down this path of evidence-based medicine. And I am so angry, like, how the hell? Because when I did my fellowship, I said, I want to continue working leadership and resiliency. And my mentor said, no, you've got to do something more academic than that. So I said, why did I not fight hard enough then? Why did I not fight hard enough then? I took a wayward journey. I was so angry at myself. And you'll see, this was also guided. So I was depressed. I remember I was on the bathroom floor. I couldn't figure it out. Why I was so depressed. I called my sponsor. I said, step 1, which is giving yourself over in something larger than yourself, right? I forget, how exactly that step is expressed, but it's like I'm powerless. It's acknowledging your powerlessness. And I was very much in. So my sponsor says, like, I don't understand this. I'm on the, I'm on the floor of the bathroom crying, don't fully understand what's going on. And my sponsor says, cool, it's working.
Oh, good. You're like, great.
This is why I have no idea what's working. And then about a week later, it worked. And what I mean by it worked, I was putting my son to bed. This is when God entered my life. So you're talking about kind of how everything is ordained. This was the moment where God entered my life. So earlier in the day, I'd been on a trail, Torrey Pines, and I remember Dill was 4 at the time, and it was a beautiful trail, and I remember I was crying. I was depressed. I was really tormented, and I remember he would look back behind, and I'd put my arms. I didn't want him to see me crying. Because I thought he'd be confused. And then, everything was welling up. Everything was welling up that day. And then I put him to sleep that night, and I was just gonging inside myself. I was beating the crap out of myself, And the irony was, even though I was already kind of starting to, thought I was the expert on navigating self-doubt, was so riddled with self-doubt that I even felt like an imposter with self-doubt. Like I would just like, who the hell am I even to talk about the self-doubt? Because I was that locked in, and I felt like I was locked up like a pretzel, and I was gonging in my head was, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And that was just chewing on my brain. It was just chewing on my brain. And then a miracle happened. Dylan had fallen asleep, and he had fallen asleep, and I was lying in bed, and I was in such torment, and I was just like a pretzel. And then I got to a point in my inner conversation, which was essentially, fuck it. I'm going to have to go back into therapy and back on drugs. So I got to that point of absolute despair where I just let everything go. And that was the crack. That was the crack, because in that crack, a new question arose, a question that had never been there before. And the question that actually emerged in the crack was, how can I find my way home? Yeah. That's the question and that was the question. I think God is very sneaky. He's like biding his time. He says, oh, here's the moment, boom, into the crack. Yes. Into the crack. And I moved from a place of torment to a place of peace. And that happened in 15 seconds. And it was such a radical shift from torment to peace that I felt like somebody had stepped into my brain and pulled a switch. That if I was on drugs or in therapy for a year, I would never have got to that place. It was such a place of peace. And I remember writing, there was even like a couple of weeks before, I had something I scribbled down. It was almost like a little seed. I said, go to the lake. And I didn't know what the hell that meant. I mean, it was another thing that God was, providing some advanced comfort for what was coming, because I had the experience of being at the lake. I had the experience of being at the lake. And I thought, what the hell has just happened here? I was so bewildered. I mean, there were two things. One was I was like unbelievably relieved. So I was so relieved. I had shifted from torment to the deepest contentment I'd ever experienced. And the contrast that happened it had happened in 10 seconds. Yeah. Like 15 seconds. And it was like, what the hell just happened? And then I realized that all I had done was I'd asked a better question. All I'd done was I'd asked a better question. I went from what's wrong with me to how can I find my way home? That's the only difference. And then I realized the significance why my evidence-based medicine wasn't a wayward journey, that it was ordained as well. Because the architecture of evidence-based medicine is asking, first step, it's a 4-step process. It's a 4-step cyclical process. In evidence-based medicine, it's a scientific methodology where you get to ask the right clinical questions. There's a format for that. You get to go out and find the best available scientific evidence in computer databases. You have a structured way of evaluating the evidence, and then you apply the answers, and ideally in partnership with our patients to make decisions. And then we loop back around, which is what we're doing working. So I went back to that and I thought, oh my God, all I did was I asked a better question. And then I ran the cycle and I said, is it possible that I not only could evidence-based medicine serve as a scientific methodology for navigating scientific uncertainty, but it could be used as a spiritual methodology for navigating personal uncertainty? And I ran the cycle. I just ran the cycle. And then I realized, oh, it's about asking better questions. And now I understand the significance of this being the world of appreciative inquiry. We're in the exchange.
Yes, community.
Yeah. Now I understand the full power of that. But I mean, this was an early seed. Oh, it's about asking good questions.
Do you know what comes to mind when you say that? It's almost like the right question shines a light.
Yes,
And
yes.
it illuminates all the possibilities and resources that have been there all along, right?
Yes, and Amanda, let's come back to that loop, because that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to do at the end of every video. We're
Yes.
looking at what are the questions and unlock that insight. What are the questions that give access to the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's glorious, like a glorious insight. So there's the asking the question, and then there's the what's the find? What is the find? So when people get stressed, the amygdala goes red hot, and it takes you into the safety frame. You're reactive, and we become mindless. I mean, it's just like we go on automatic. So what I realized was, because I had a mindfulness practice, the find part is about learning how to create physiological stillness, to still the limbic system, to open up our higher cortical circuits, so the answers to our questions can more readily find us. Right? Yeah. And then I thought, well, what's the evaluate part? What's the evaluate part? Well, and then I realized, the evaluate part is a calibration. It's a calibration. Does this feel right? Versus does it feel good? And what I realized is, we follow your bliss in some way, but some of that, people interpret that you're looking for sweet relief. So you follow the good, something that feels good, but then there's if you do that too much, it creates a strain, because what if you feel compelled to actually quit back on alcohol? What if you feel called to have a very uncomfortable conversation with your friend? So that doesn't feel good. So you've got to tap into a different kind of calibration. Does it feel right?
Yeah.
Does it feel right?
Yeah.
Does it feel right? And trust. So that's how I recalibrate. Does it feel right more than feels good? And trust the good will come. And then the apply piece is the courage to take action in the stream of the inspiration. And then the loop back around is really beautiful. The loop back around is asking yourself, is it working? It's kind of like its own act. It is an active learning cycle. And you say, is what we're doing working? Now we're actually, I'm looking, does this elevate energy or does it decrease energy? You actually can feel a sense of expansion or contraction, in that question. And if you feel it's not working, you don't feel a shift or it feels, you just keep asking more questions. Finding the right question that will unlock that. And sometimes the most powerful question we can ask is, what is the right question we can ask?
That's right. What's the best question I can ask right now? That's right.
Right. So, but the beauty of it is, if you close the loop, and it is working, it's an opportunity to express awe and appreciation for whatever the source of your inspiration that you feel is driving this inner wisdom. And for me, I give this over to the grace of God. I give that over to the grace of God, my deepest source of wisdom, that's inspiring these insightful answers to begin with. This is the unlock. And I'm mindful it's Thanksgiving Day today, and just what a sacred opportunity it is to have reverence for the field. What a sacred opportunity it is today to have reverence for the field. Let us all collectively, globally love on the abundance of the field, and actually express reverence, because actually that will come up and bless us multiple times over. So that was the way that I discovered God, because at that point I could, with that story, when I thought evidence-based medicine was a wayward journey, I thought evidence was a wayward journey. God knew others. I truly believe it was the divine that actually guided me to say, no, you need to know this framework, because this framework unlocks your relationship with me. And in that moment, I found my connection with God, because I knew that cycle was ordained. So I couldn't, the coincidence of all of that, at some point, that synchronicity was a tilting point. It broke through all synchronicities, and hence God must exist, right?
Yeah.
That's
Seeing the purpose in your life story all the time, like the whole way.
now I see it even more clearly. Now I see
Mm.
it even more clearly. And this, so I found God in that moment. But I will say, from that moment up until last night, I will say that I have had moments of doubt. I'm trying to kind of think, I have those moments of doubt. Is this all an illusion? Am I just wishful thinking? So I have those moments, and when I have those moments of doubt, something interesting has happened in my life. When I'm in full faith and belief, somehow my life always has worked better. And then I go into these moments of doubt, and something closes down. And so, I'm kind of, nibbling at at my connection with God in a way. Like, I know God exists, but I'm having these moments. I'm not full-throated. Last night I became full-throated, because when I could track the entire arc of the story from the beginning to the end, where it all comes down to this, I understood that I've been called. And I understood my energy, and I said, and Sue was really kind of feeling like, I've got to go downstairs and actually make all of these videos public right now. I said, Sue, this may feel to you like I am obsessive compulsive on this. And I think it does, in some way. Like, I have such an energy around it when I come with this, but actually this thwarting, like, I can't rest. There's something coming through me, not allowing me to rest. And I couldn't understand, was this obsessive energy? And then I realized I'm being called, and I went into a complete surrender. I went into a complete surrender in being called. I said, God, I give it all over to you. I give it all over to you now. I'm in complete surrender. This is my surrender. This is my expression of the complete surrender to the field. This project is a complete surrender to the field. I don't claim any stake in this field. This is not about me. This is not about me. It's about me wanting to be a servant in this field, as a conduit in some whatever way. I am, I said yesterday, I'm a very, very ordinary person. I'm a very, very ordinary person who, by the grace of God, is living an extraordinary rich life. And even now, understanding that, I don't want to get into some people will think I'm delusional, but I did have, the thought of, like, Jesus Christ on the cross, and I'm just let me be very clear, I'm not making any claim in that, but there's some aspect of him being called to, to suffer, to be a servant of the flow of God. And that's kind of, on one way, I feel that's my brain cancer is my cross. My brain cancer is my cross. I mean, that's my burden of bear, to actually do the deeper work.
Yeah.
To actually do the deeper work of service in wanting this to, wanting to honor this flow through, this flow through. So, so I feel that, Amanda, we're here to do some kind of sacred work together. I think we've got to figure out what the genre is. It's a sacred, emergent, co-emergent process that is a global, on a global scale. It's, and I'm also very mindful of how we've been called, all of us together at this moment in time. We're in the time of COVID, social isolation in people in deep pain and suffering. We're in the time of awakened systemic racism. It's just, when I say, it's always been there. It's always been there, but now there's a new awakening with George Floyd. There's like a whole new awakening. And it's like, the time is now to deal with this issue. The time is now to actually deal with this issue. And what I'm really excited about tomorrow, I have a call with Yvette Miller. Yvette Miller is the medical director of the Red Cross.
Oh my goodness.
And she's an extraordinary woman who happens to be Black as well. And so we've been engaged in, and you'll see Vet is an amazing woman, but we actually, you can imagine, we've been crossing paths, and she feels our ordained. Had been to South Africa. And so actually, I'm trying to think if she was there during apartheid, but so now she comes over here and she sees, we cross paths multiple times in the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine, and she sees a white South African and has incredible curiosity,
right,
about that. And then we had this, a little bit of an edgy moment at the last conference where, I offered an answer and she got quite edgy about my response. It was, and I couldn't figure out, I thought I'd given a, but what it did was it actually opened us into connecting with each other. Saying, we need to talk. We need to talk. And what we've done is we have been in a series of conversations where we have set a healing container where we can be raw and real with each other. And we understand it's in the context of healing. It's in the context of healing. So we've had an emergence where I love and appreciate. When Joe Biden won, she was one of the first people I called. When I said, I said, I have to celebrate with you because, and she said, like, it's been a long 4 years. I said, how about a long 400 years? I said, Black people, we have Black people in this country to thank because they saved our democracy. And she said, well, you have, it was also Black women in particular, because they showed up in mass. Just, you need to find a Black woman to go and hug. Well, I said, I want to hug you. I want to hug you, Yvette, because, and so this is just one part of like God calling me to do the work, calling us, me and Yvette, to have a conversation that's been ordained as well as being a part of, the healing that needs to take place in this country and around the world, wherever you find systemic racism. The time is now. The time is now. And it's not lost on me, the irony that Joe Biden is our president and he lost his son with the very same cancer that I have.
Wow.
How does that work? And it's not lost on me that perhaps somebody watching this video might actually send the series to Joe Biden, and I will get to meet him to actually embrace him, because I've been watching, Joe, if you're listening, if you're listening, and Kamala Harris, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you both. I have such renewed hope. And actually, you were talking about we're in a battle for the soul of America. And I really felt like it was the battle of the soul of America. I can see the Maslowian pyramid. We've been in the safety reactive frame in chaos for 4 years. And what I was watching is just the way that I experienced with the empathy and compassion, just how you've claimed the love and belonging frame. You've reclaimed the love and belonging frame so we can actually live into a higher purpose in what we're here to do, to heal the nation. So everything through the work I've been doing makes sense. And I just have such a reverence for you both as conscious leaders, as the embodiment of conscious leaders. And I want to work with you. I want to work with you to be a part of our global community, as being part of healing the country and then healing the world. It feels that big. And I have a vision that somehow, somebody will share this with Joe. And it would inspire him to invite me. And I actually have, the time maybe when we both have our vaccines, where we will have a moment of loving embrace. And I want to extend my compassion to him for the loss of his son. Because it's, I can't imagine what it's like. I'm trying to imagine. I'm so much happier that I have this cancer than my son has it. The difference would have been immense. But I'm so much in reverence about this moment in history. where this cancer has landed to help catalyze something that feels far bigger than any of us. And I want to be part of that global movement, the part of the global movement that is, there are so many movements that are actually fragmenting right now. There's so many movements that are fragmenting. I want to actually be connected to a coalition of movements that are involved in healing, wellness, well-being, and creating flourishing in the world. And these are the movements like, bringing together the movements like conscious capitalism, the mission statement, we exist to elevate humanity. Whole Health Institute, whose entire base and premise is on anchoring individual healing on personal purpose. The exchange community, whose vision is to unlock, flourishing with a choreography of conversations that unlock individual and collective wisdom to create flourishing at scale. I want to be, both of us are certified in appreciative inquiry, and I'm so blessed. That's our next program. We're actually doing a program on awakening conscious leadership that we're going to record, a 3-day program. This is going to be kind of like, this will probably be my last program that I'll be able to do, in that way. And we'll be making recordings, and I hope you'll have the opportunity. But in many ways, where my work ended off over here with understanding that the power source is the question, flourished in understanding, well, there's a choreography of questions. There's a choreography of questions, and there's a choreography of movements in and out of groups that have a way of creating psychological safety that, unlocks this potential for flourishing at scale, for healing. I want to be a part, of that coalition. I want to be a part of the coalition of the Global Wellness Summit, which is the Global Wellness Institute, which is really kind of shaping the future of wellness, in the future. Global Wellness Day, Belgan Aksoy Global Wellness Day, to celebrate. And in fact, that was launched off her cancer. That whole vision was to bring healing to the world. John Gee's World Wellness Weekend. There's so many glorious movements. And what I want to do in this channel is I want to shine a light. This is not about me, but I want to actually kind of shine a light, with whether it be interviews, we'll figure that out. But I want to shine a light on all of these organizations. I don't want to just have people just send this, send this into their networks. I want them to be a part of the story as they do, because I want to align with them and acknowledge it and love on them for the work that they're doing in the world. And that's how we build coalitions. We're building a coalition of healing. We're building a coalition of healing. And I tell you who's also part of that coalition. I'm just other names that are coming together. Obviously Barack and Michelle Obama, just extraordinary. Just some names. I'm even thinking of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. And then of course, I'm thinking of Oprah and, how she's actually been an agent of healing in the world. So, I want to shine a light somehow, in my humble way, to be able to shine a light on all this work that they've done or they're doing. I want to find a way of actually engaging in conversation. So let's say we actually knock Logan Paul off with, a huge subscriber base. It gives us influence to engage in this, the vision of us expanding this coalition, and not doing it because any one channel is special, but doing it by actually creating a network, an ecosystem, of healing, networking. The way we're going to heal the world, is we're going to network. We're going to need to network, a collaboration of healing organizations.
Mm.
That's how we do it. It's not any one initiative. It's actually creating through this network effect. Then we can actually have a sufficient lever. I've even just, there's another name that comes to bear, which is Yannick Silva. I've just joined his 1 Degree network. And his vision is he wants to nudge the consciousness of the world by 1 degree. This very much may well do it. And he's got a vast network. He may well be able to do it. And I'm mindful, it's in partnership with this co-emergence. So we're networking this global, a global network of healing organizations, I think, can do it. We can do the work of healing. And I'm just thinking about how many organizations are looking to heal systemic racism. Countless work in workshops, in organizations. How many, another aspect is, the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine, where I served as founding chair. I'm going to be going on Monday to meet with Mimi Graneri, who is the most extraordinary. She's the president of the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine. And when I worked with Mimi when we founded the Academy, we worked on, our vision is we too have a dream. We too have a dream. So I want to interview Mimi. I want to shine the light on the work of the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine. So, this is a glorious, I feel so blessed. I'm in full-throated surrender to this process. And Amanda, you are I have no doubt, you're connected to the field. We've been ordained to work together on this. We have been ordained to work together on this, on our personal journey. And, it feels like I want to get a little bit practical, at the end of this, and just want to wrap up with, just talking about practically what do we need to do. But I just want to put I would love you to have a final word in this phase of the conversation.
Yeah. Well, the picture, I'm a really visual person. So I think, whatever comes through the field to me ends up being kind of a visual thing. But what I see really is the living organism that's being awakened, that's always been connected all along, right? We've always been connected at a heart level, but it feels like there's a real awakening now that is showing us that we're connected through this work that you're bringing into being. Individual interviews will show that one-to-one connection, but it feels like a whole network is being lit up.
Yes. Wow. I don't know if you remember, but in our chapter 12 of our book, I referenced the work of Frederick Laloux.
Yes.
And he talks about moving from the machine to kind of really evolving from the machine, because a lot of the metaphor in a lot of businesses and organizations are we exist to as a machine, and that machine is transactional. It burns people out. It's in service of productivity and profit. But at the evolution towards teal.
Yes. Oh, that's right. He calls it a living organism.
It's a living organism. It's a living organism. And ultimately that changes the paradigm. Because instead of predict and control, it's sense and respond.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing. We're sensing and responding into the field. And we're listening what evolution is being called for right now. And that's, I feel like, the work we're doing. We're doing the work, in that that living, breathing organism. And it's interesting how things change, because when you're in a machine, when you understand you're in a machine, meetings, so-called meetings happen in a certain way. Meetings are gatherings to transact and get work done. But when you understand that this living, breathing, and I love the way you're using network. It's a highly interconnected network of living, breathing relationships. That's what this is.
Yep.
Then even the value of meetings change. The value of meetings is gatherings are an opportunity to advance relationships within which work gets done. So you actually land up redesigning your meeting to actually have human connection. And this is the work that I've been doing in healthcare systems to humanize healthcare, And what I experience is what I love about, the discussions that I had with the leaders from the Children's Primary Care Medical Group. And then there was, I think on day 10, when I went to get myself set up, you're seeing examples of incredibly human organizations, the humanity,
Yes.
and you're learning about what does it take to, what is the type of care that will humanize and bring compassion and care back into healthcare. And I think when you see the interaction with Dr. Hanny Malone, I think that interaction embodies the best of what healthcare has to offer as well. He's a neurosurgeon. Where have you ever seen a neurosurgeon hug his patient heart to heart? He's a neurosurgeon hugging his patient heart to heart. How much more of an expression of, and what happened in that, so many, you go to see a doctor, the transaction is you get your result. That's not what happened in that session.
Right.
This was about relationships. That happened in a container of relationships. So actually, as difficult as the diagnosis was, if it was just a transaction, it would have weakened my relationship. But because it was held in the container of loving compassion, we left our connection even stronger for the part that was transacted, because we held it in a container of, that's an example of humanizing healthcare. And you know what the thing is on that video? This is a great example. On that video, we might think about how we ask the questions, because there's certainly a lot to learn if you're not in healthcare. I mean, you can look at this from the lens through a patient. It's like, what does this mean for you? What would this mean for you to be blessed to have a doctor like Dr. Hanny Malone, and maybe what that means for you to shop around until you find somebody.
Right.
So don't settle. Find somebody that is not only technically competent, but is actually human. And look, I don't want to demonize doctors, because a lot of the reason why doctors lose a sense of the humanity is just because of burnout. It's really painful. They become strained of their compassion. So there's that dimension as well. So sometimes even when you meet a transactional doctor, please have compassion there too. But from a patient perspective, from a physician perspective, or a healthcare, anybody in a healthcare provider perspective, so I can just open up the bucket. What that would mean to look like is asking questions. What do you notice as you go into the reflection and action? What do you notice about the way Dr. Malone is showing up with Danny right here, right now? What are you noticing about the empathy, compassion? How's that, what are some of the, I don't know, you get the vibe. And then
Definitely.
what does that action inspire in you?
Yeah. How are you inspired to show up for other people?
Yes, I love, and Amanda, this is where you work your magic. I mean, you are just, extraordinary. So what I would welcome you to do, and I've already in the first, I've already, I don't know if you've seen in the first video, let me just share over here quickly on screen. I just shared an example, and first of all, I think I want to just do a little bit of iteration over here around, a journey to inspire healing, growth, and thriving in your life and the world. I mean, I'm getting at something over here, but it doesn't feel complete yet. let's create a placeholder for iteration of that, offline.
Great.
But then in this first one,
It's a lot to me.
yeah, so
So
that's the message. That's the first message that
Yes.
I sent out, because so here's where what I just as a placeholder, I said,
Yes.
I said, this video was recorded after Danny received news that the most likely diagnosis on the MRI was a high-grade glioblastoma brain cancer. Since it was also before the brain biopsy, Sue, Danny's wife, asked him to film a video where he could share a message with the boys, just in case anything happened. Now, even that language of that paragraph, I don't know, Danny and Sue's wife, and I don't know what voice we're working with over here that gives it access. But then the message he shared with Zach and Dill expressed the deepest wish for them to live a loving life. And I've got reflection. So there's a piece over here when we're doing the active learning cycle. So everyone, and maybe not everyone of the videos is going to lend themselves to, we may need to pick and choose what lends itself well to reflection and action, and who the specific audience is for that, those reflections, and maybe we actually have, we have to create a little bit more specificity so that we have relevance and impact for individual need.
Yep.
I want this to be deeply personal for people.
Yes.
And so, I said, I think this one is actually, applies to everybody. Reflection for you. If you were given a life-threatening diagnosis, or you knew you only had a short time to live, who would you reach out to? What message would you want to share? What message would you share? And then why wait?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then what actions do these answers inspire you to take?
Yes.
And to keep it like, people don't have a lot of time to read.
Right. Very short, but impactful. Yeah. Getting at the heart of it, just like you said, with the description, getting at the heart of the insight, potential transformation, right? And then just giving people a chance to do the active learning cycle and apply it for themselves. And one thing Sue said earlier, that this could be really show people the curriculum of their lives.
Well, that is so this is another big thing that came. I love, I feel like we're actually kind of beginning to wrap up, and what a great place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Because I'm needing to decide where I invest my energy of time. And what I've been saying, interestingly enough, what I've been saying is that the curriculum's not in the slide deck.
That's right.
The curriculum's what's on deck. Life is the curriculum. Life is the curriculum. And I want to spend my time dedicated, taking things off my plate. I don't want to be giving PowerPoint presentations of what's on deck. This is the curriculum I wanted, because this is what's on deck now. This is the relevant curriculum.
Yes.
It's not only the relevant, and let me just say, my cancer is a small part of the curriculum, and that's a personal part of the curriculum. The real curriculum is what's going on in society right now with COVID and systemic racism and political fragmentation. That healing, that's a big part of the curriculum that I would love to see us all address together.
Yeah. And I just think, with brain cancer, whatever any of our particular suffering is right now, I really do believe, and you're showing us this in real time too, that the suffering we experience is the conduit, it breaks us open to make us a larger conduit to serve, right? Like that's, and everyone has their own flavor, their own version of suffering.
Oh, amazing, Amanda. That is just so awesome. That is just like, that's exactly the intent of this. This happens to be my personal lens of suffering, but my suffering is no greater than the suffering of families that have lost loved ones in COVID, that have been ravaged by addiction. There's so many, other forms of suffering, and anybody suffering, when they suffer, it's actually 100% for them. So you can't compare suffering. It's 100% for them. And so what I want to do is use my lens of my suffering, how we're making meaning of our suffering. The frame of this is that the life lessons learned. It's the life lessons we're learning and sharing through this lens of suffering. But the real thing is that it's the life lessons learned. It's not about any particular strain of suffering.
That's right.
Life lessons learned through suffering that reflects back into people's lives that can help them in their unique form of suffering.
Yes.
That's the gift where we can all heal, and it's leading. That's why it's leading well from within, where we can all begin the healing first. A lot of the healing is first needs to be done within oneself. It's from the inside out. First, serving this individually, letting this healing, each of these videos touch somebody personally and heal them personally. Then allowing coming out one step out, facilitating. You know, when I'm using healing, I'm using, I've got right now we've got healing, growth, and thriving. So there's a progression to do all of that. And it all is in, this alchemy of transformation. It's the alchemy of transformation, making meaning of your suffering, actually there's an alchemy in that. So, but it happens on a personal level. I want to acknowledge the personal dimension. So, people aren't going to enroll in, working with global issues if they are personally suffering. So I wanted to first deal with that, and then having capacity to heal the families.
Yes.
The families there are broken families all around the country. There are broken home families and there are broken work families. And there's certainly we have at that point, there's another level up, then there's communities, looking at how do we heal the fragmentation that's in the communities, and often, and the politicization, over recent years has really created fragmentation in communities. People don't speak to each other. And then these larger systemic issues. So it's building it from the, from the bottom up. And
one heart at a time, right?
One heart at a time. And because it's a network, any heart that is awakened will have impact on awakening another heart.
That's right.
So
I experienced that directly with you. Like when it happened for you, there was a transference,
yes,
because we're connected. Yeah,
I think that's what people feel with our family, is that the videos that are being shared is created a heart awakening. Yeah. And that may inspire them, and I said, if people are feeling awakened with compassion and they feel compassion towards me, I'm more interested in them using the actual experience of awakened compassion and using a larger measure of that, rating that internally as self-compassion to heal themselves. So please be generous with yourself, and just, if you're inclined to be compassionate with me, I'll take 10%, but please leave 90% for you and your families. Let that heart of awakened compassion mostly go in towards your self-compassion. Feel the love in your heart that's being awakened, but feel how that can heal you. And then from that heart of self-compassion, take that expansion of your heart into your families, into your communities, into the world at large. So that's
beautiful.
Yeah. And this is why, when you, the way, the field clearly, when you spoke about this being the curriculum, this is the curriculum. This is a worthy curriculum. We're all investing this in a worthy curriculum together. So that, this is actually a call to action. It's a call to action. If you want to join this coalition of healing, if you want to join this coalition of healing, whether you're an individual, whether you're an organization, please subscribe below to this channel to do so, and share this, and let's work together in whatever ways where we can shine a light on all the glorious coalitions that are doing the healing work, so we can transform the world.
I'm in.
Sign up, subscribe. Have you subscribed?
Yes, I have.
All right. Okay, Amanda, I'm going to pause the recording over here, and I just want to I so love and appreciate you, Amanda. I feel so blessed. I feel so blessed to be working with you on this sacred emerging process. So that's our new.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And then
it's perfect timing. I think my turkey is calling to be basted
okay.
downstairs.
Let me I'm mindful that it's Thanksgiving, and then I want to end off with thanks for all of you listening. I want to just thank for you. If you're still listening, this has been going on a long time. If you've actually made it all the way to the end, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for actually, because I trust this is awakening your heart, and this has made your time well spent. So I love you.